A reading from St. Luke's Gospel, chapter 12, beginning to read at verse 32. Do not be afraid, little flock, for it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. Sell your possessions and give alms. Make purses for yourselves that do not wear out, an unfailing treasure in heaven, where no thief comes near and no moth destroys. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Be dressed for action and have your lamps lit. Be like those who are waiting for their master to return from the wedding banquet, so that they may open the door for him as soon as he comes and knocks. Blessed are those slaves whom the master finds alert when he comes. Truly I tell you, he will fasten his belt and have them sit down to eat, and he will come and serve them. I love the way language and the use of it evolves and changes. New words come into everyday use, and new ways of putting things emerge. Sometimes they are an improvement, sometimes not, but that's a matter of personal judgment as much as anything. I well remember a niece coming to stay from Australia when my children were still at secondary school, who, in answer to the question, "How are you?" would reply, "I'm good, thank you." That took me by surprise then, but now lots of people use the same expression, and I've learnt to resist the temptation to say, "Are you sure?" Another relative newcomer to the language scene is a response my daughter Susie uses a lot. If you thank her for something she has sent, she will reply, "My pleasure." Or if you ask her to pass on your thanks for something her girls have sent, and last time it was some lovely pictures to hang on the fridge, she will answer, "Their pleasure." And I like to think it was, because they are lovely self-portraits done in paint, and they certainly give me a huge amount of pleasure. I was reminded of this and of the genuine pleasure that comes with giving when I read the opening verse of today's reading. Do not be afraid, little flock, for it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. What a wonderful thing for Jesus to say. It speaks so powerfully of the generosity of God the Creator, who loves to give good gifts to his children, loves to give us the kingdom, that realm where his love and compassion, his care and his redemption hold sway. This month in the parish, we're asking people to think about loving kindness, and this week to think of someone we can give a gift to. It might be an actual gift or card, but it could be a gift of another sort, a loving action, or the giving of our time in a special way. And hopefully it will be our good pleasure to do this too. Jesus had been focusing on the anxiety and the greed which he saw all about him, in a world that was running by very different values from those of the kingdom. He had been approached by someone in the crowd asking him to intervene in a property dispute with his brother, and he warned against looking for security in possessions, telling the story of a farmer who builds more and more barns to house his grain, storing up everything for himself, and then suddenly losing his life before ever learning to be rich towards God, or experiencing the good pleasure of giving. Jesus is telling us if we set our hearts on the eternal treasures of the kingdom, where grasping and greed, where injustice and exploitation, where lack of generosity and loving kindness have no place, then the Father will give those treasures to us. The second part of the Gospel passage speaks of the coming of the Son of Man in terms of blessing and of the need to be ready and alert whenever he comes. It has none of the stress on judgment, which often accompanies mention of such a coming, but speaks instead of one who will reverse the roles of master and servant, as Jesus was to do in the upper room when he girded himself with a towel and washed his disciples' feet. Here the master, returning from the wedding feast, rolls up his sleeves and waits upon those who are ready to welcome him, as Christ comes to serve and to feed us with his very self. There is a great longing in many of us for the Eucharist to be shared once more in the fullest sense, and great uncertainty as to when in the future that will be. Even if our church is open for private prayer, there are many and complex issues to sort out first, and full guidance to wait for. The COVID virus is a bit like a thief or a destructive moth that has taken so much away, and we have to wait in patience for a clear view of the path ahead. But the treasures of God's loving kindness and overflowing generosity are incorruptible. It is for us to share those treasures in whatever way we can, to live by the values of God's kingdom, and not to be afraid, for we are in his hands, and it is his good pleasure to give us his grace. The Lord bless you and keep you. Amen.